Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Development and Property Committee meeting on Tuesday, May the 14th at 9:30 a.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and as we gather this morning, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the First Nations. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history. We are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Evelyn, has roll call been taken?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and we have quorum.
Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Seeing none, then we will move to the adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting held on April the 9th, 2024. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor from Town of Petawawa, seconded by Councillor from Laurentian Valley. Any additions, corrections, or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. At this point, I will need a mover and a seconder to go into closed. Moved by Councillor from Town of Arnprior, seconded by Councillor from Township of McNabb-Braeside. All in favor? That's carried. So we will now move to closed. Thank you and welcome back, everybody. And I do want to apologize for not reading out the items that would be discussed in closed. So I am going to do that now. Item 1 was a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization. This is in regards to the forest biomass program, and a recommendation will be presented. Item number 2 was litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. And it was in regards to official plan amendment number 40, the Storyland Pit. Again, there will be a recommendation. And the third was an information item, which is the security of property of the municipality or local board. And this is in regards to the Old Grove in Arnprior. So I will then read the resolution or the recommendation, I'm sorry, for the biomass initiative. And that recommendation is that the Development and Property Committee directs staff to support and submit the applications for the biofoam projects from Sully, Holler Associates and D.F. Johnson and Associates, University of Toronto, with Ben Oakham and Sons, to the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, Wood Biomass Program, and FedDev. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor from Greater Madawaska, seconded by Councillor from Town of Petawawa. Discussion. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And the other recommendation was direction to staff, which I will have to turn to Gwen to read. Oh, we don't have to? Okay. Sorry, my apologies. So at this point, I think we will take 5 minutes of a break. I know we have a lot to cover yet, but if we can come back here by, let's just say 11:25. I know we'll probably be a little later, but let's say 11:25. Thank you, Gene, and welcome everybody. We're going to start with the Development and Property Committee reports, and I'll turn it over to Director Davis to start us off with the department report.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. 11:30 according to the clock, and sorry for the late delay. First item under information on page 11 is the Treasurer's report up to the month of March 31st. What you see on pages 16 to 20 is the departmental financial report up to that date. Nothing of consequence in the sense of overages or underages. Right now, we're looking at on page 20, the summary of we're about $271,000 under budget at this time. That will change, of course, as we move throughout the year. Item number 2 is a ribbon cutting ceremony on the Lee Douglas new build. So back on May 3rd, we did have an grand opening ceremony for this new build, the 8 units, 12 bedroom complex. In the city of Pembroke. Very good news in the sense of we had a good output. So we had the Associate Minister, Mr. Rob Flack, our MPP, Johnny Kabuski, our Warden, and the Mayor of the city of Pembroke at the event, made some speeches, and thank you very much for those who attended. Also, at this point, I'd like to also thank some staff members of course, Mr. Craig Kelly. He's the one that passed this torch along to me, whether good or bad, but he did pass it along. So thanks very much for Mr. Kelly to the event and in the sense of creating this the new complex at the Lee and Douglas corner. Also, we have Mr. Kevin Raditz and his team of Dennis Lazary and Gary Davis, and the construction company of Braun Construction out of Ottawa, and also plus VG Architects, who did the support of the design and the project management. And this is a team effort, and I can't say enough about our community services team, Andrea Patrick and Jennifer Dombrowski. A lot of heavy lifting near the end, especially about just the organization of the event. It's amazing how much time it takes to bring this event to fruition, but thank you very much for the grand opening of that complex. Item number 3 is the Renfrew County Housing Summit Summary Report. What you see on pages 21 to 65 is the summary of our Housing Summit that was held on April 4th. To all extent, the Housing Summit was a great success. The objectives was to bring people together, developers, the elected, builders, to talk about the housing crisis we're facing and possible solutions, the sharing of information. And what you see in this report, and again, just because of time, and we'll talk about this at County Council, a lot of good information in this report. So please take a chance to look at it. Again, we're here to talk or answer any questions. But what we did in this report, we summarized the day. We talked about the individual presenters, the Mentimeter, the electronic questions and answer periods we had throughout the day, and more importantly, we did a post-event survey. And from those, all that input from the event, the post-event survey, we do have 12 recommendations, and that's what you'll see. We summarize this on page, I do believe, 12 and 13 of your committee report, and also within the main package. I will not read every single recommendation, just to highlight a few for you as we move forward. And again, this initiative is very important. Some of the comments you'll see in the report is we should do this on a yearly event or maybe bi-yearly, just to provide an update where the county is at for this housing crisis. One of the big things for us was to expand and to really promote the expression of interest that the county has out. So again, the expression of interest highlights all the different properties the county is willing to make a deal within Renfrew County with developers and investors to see what we can do to bring more housing into Renfrew County on our property. So a good news story, and because of this event, a number of builders and developers have expressed interest already in the expression of interest, and we look forward to the closing of that on June the 7th, and to bring back to Committee and County Council some of the initiatives they're proposing on some county lands. Again, looking at the recommendations, one of the recommendations on the first one is the Renfrew County should consider establishing the community improvement plan. We've already talked about that at the last County Council with Bruce Howarth and Daniel Burke, so we're in the process of doing that. We're also talking about advocating, both at the municipal, federal, and provincial levels for more investments, for skilled labor, all those type of things for our housing initiatives moving forward. And one more item just to highlight is I do believe item number 10 is when we're going through and completing the building condition assessment, the BCAs for all our Renfrew County housing buildings. There will be recommendations moving forward from that consultant, and we're hoping that the County Council and this committee will look at those recommendations to move those along. And maybe, Chair, I'll leave it at that before I jump into item number 4 under resolutions.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. So we'll go back to information item number 1, the Treasurer's Report. Questions? Seeing none, item number 2 is the ribbon cutting ceremony at 1030 Lee Street, Pembroke. Good news story. And Warden.
Just really quickly, and not to ignore how great an event that was. You know, thank you to your staff and to Mr. Raditz for their work in getting the project completed. Also to Renfrew County Housing Corporation for initiating the idea and then passing it through to development and property. It was a very, but it was a very well done event. Great looking units, and I think part of the discussion when we were going through the process in the last council and agonizing over the cost that was moving up and never down, was the applicability of hopefully using the units, the footprint and the plan for future development across the county. And I think those, they're new and they look modern. They don't feel like stodgy public housing units. So congratulations to everybody. What a great event.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? Item number 3 is the Renfrew County Housing Summit. Yes, it's certainly a great day, and thanks to all of the staff who helped pull that together. Quite interesting. 2 of the top challenges were red tape and, of course, funding. So as county, I guess we will continue to lobby to get more money. Any other comments or questions? The Warden.
Again, great job by everybody, and I really liked the new and probably the wrong word, but hip feeling that we had at the event. Like it felt new. It didn't feel like a time-worn format and delivery. It was nicely paced, lots of good information, and everybody seemed to be engaged. So that's a really nice new format and look for us, and congratulations to staff. Their energy and ideas drove it, and it went really well.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll move to resolutions, and back to you, Director Davis.
Thank you again, Chair. So under the recommendation for resolutions, the Association of Municipalities Ontario Conference Delegation request, and the recommendation being that the Development and Property Committee recommends that after a review of current state of development and property issues, staff submit delegation requests at the upcoming Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, conference that are consistent with the 2023-2026 County of Renfrew Strategic Plan, current initiatives that require further advocacy, and previous delegations that address funding shortfalls.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. You've heard the recommendation. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor from Greater Madawaska, seconded by Councillor from Town of Arnprior. And background, please.
Thank you again. So this is a little different than before. So you may recall in the previous years, we did have a number of lists of delegations and who we're going to ask the delegations to be for. And this time around, we do have 2 recommendations you have, but we also wanted to broaden it out a little bit so we have the flexibility. If we know of other initiatives, we'll just move forward with that before the deadline date without going through committee and county council. So what you see here is we do want to meet with the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry to talk about the biomass and species at risk, and also the Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trail to talk about the ERC funding, just to name a few of the initiatives moving forward, along with, I'm sure we'll talk about MESA and the housing initiatives, but again, this framework, this broad recommendation is to keep it broad so we have the flexibility. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. You've heard the recommendation and the background comments, questions. Oh, yes, Mr. Kelly.
No, thanks, Chair, and through you. So those who have read ahead this week will see a report in the FNA report for Thursday is that the County of Renfrew is attending Queen's Park on May the 27th for some items of advocacy that are still being worked upon. There's a list of, gosh, I don't know, 24 or something like that. We hope to meet with as Mr. Davis has suggested, this has been vague because some of our items of advocacy might be quote-unquote taken care of or addressed that day, or may have more questions coming out of that day that might mean us advocating for something entirely different or pivoting, if you will. And the deadline for these is June 4th, I think, or something like that, to get the delegations in for AMO, which seems early. So, again, we appreciate your ability to allow us, or our ability to allow us to have ability to be vague and somewhat flexible.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. So that brings us to our Economic Development Division report, and Ms. Markwood, please.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone, again. So first up on the Economic Development Report is just an update on our marketing initiatives for the BDO zone designation. So a media release was issued on April 17th in collaboration with EcoStrat, who conducted the report and designation, and a dedicated landing page has been added to the BDO zone website. Since the media release, staff have conducted interviews with some local media and responded to 4 inquiries about potential future biomass projects, opportunities. Some of these have been just tire kickers. One of them has maybe some potential to go somewhere, but we're still looking into that and having discussions about that. There will be a webinar that will be scheduled probably sometime late June or July that will be an opportunity to have to speak about Renfrew County's designation to a targeted audience of bio-based industry stakeholders, project developers, and partners and investors and such things. So this is just to provide a continued update about the designation and how we're working on that to promote that. Number 2 on the report is the Vendors Market Forum that we held on April 23rd. That was in participation with the Ministry of Agriculture, Food, Rural Affairs, Renfrew County Community Futures Development Corporation, Renfrew County District Health Unit, as well as Enterprise Renfrew County. And if you recall, we held a selling food workshop in 2023, and this is more or less of a continuation and a building on that event for our local vendors, but this one had a focus on food vendors and farmers markets. And so there was information about provincial regulations and around safe food production and handling, as well as the rules around selling food at vendor and farmers markets. Food trends, there was best practices. Our economic development team led a session on how to set up your booth to make it the most successful in terms of sales. And then ERC and Renfrew County Community Futures Development Corporation spoke about funding programs that can support local food vendors in their efforts. And then in follow-up to that, we held a online session with OMAFRA on April 29th that was all about the costing and pricing for food at vendors and small businesses. Number 3 on the report is our participation at the Before You Arrive in Canada virtual forum on April 27th. And David Wybu, our Business Development Officer, participated in that in partnership with the local Immigration Partnership of Renfrew and Lanark County. And that provided an opportunity for Mr. Wybu to present a session about opportunities for settling in Renfrew County. And LIP took part in a panel discussion about pre-arrival questions with migrant support experts. While it was a rather small event, there was only 10 booths. There was 4 potential leads that came to the Renfrew County booth, one including a teacher who's looking at relocating to Renfrew County. So we are providing our support as well as through LIP to try and help make that happen. Number 4 on the report is the groundbreaking ceremony for Wolf System Canada that took place in the township of Braeside on May 3rd. And Warden Emo and Mr. Waibu from our Economic Development Office did attend. So Wolf System Canada specializes in the production of prefabricated buildings, tanks, and foundations for the agriculture and industrial construction industries. So think of livestock barns, food and machinery storage, warehouse and production facilities of that nature. And so this will be their first manufacturing facility in North America. Number 5 is a new program that the County of Renfrew is participating in called the Rural Changemakers Program. This is a program that is developed and run by the Rural Ontario Institute and is basically an opportunity to welcome youth and engaged leaders between the ages of 18 and 35 who want to become the next faces of change and mobilize action in their local communities. So think of future economic development officers. And so this is a free opportunity for us to participate in. It's just a little bit of staff time with the mentorship and delivering the programs, and we're doing that in partnership with the Community Futures Development Corporation. And so right now the recruitment phase is underway, and so applications launched on May 1st and continue until the end of July. And then once selected, candidates will begin in September through co-facilitated learning labs and working together in a virtual learning setting, going through curriculum materials and working through that process. And then from February to August, the youth will be working with community mentors throughout the community to look at potential projects that could be developed within the community. And this is a great opportunity to support the transition of youth into the labor market by leveraging additional connections through this program. So if you are aware of any youth within your communities that you think would be a great fit for this, please encourage them to apply. And I did circulate a poster to each of you that has more information. And this has been shared out on our social channels, and as well is being sent to all of our municipal partners for them to share as well, and being promoted through Enterprise Renfrew County through our youth programs. Number 6 on the report is just a couple of recently announced funding programs. So the first is the Inclusive Community Grants, which is a provincial program that is open until May 22nd. And that provides up to $60,000 in grant funding for projects that increase accessibility of outdoor spaces, promoting accessible housing through projects, and making practical, timely improvements to increase accessible housing, outdoor spaces, buildings, and transportation needs. And this program is eligible for municipal governments, local governments, and community not-for-profit organizations and Indigenous communities. And the last on the funding program announcement, the recent one, was the FedDev Ontario regional streams. So this is usually announced twice a year, and so this has been for the spring intake and provides an opportunity for incorporated business to apply for a no-interest repayable loan from $125,000 up to $10 million to grow, innovate, and diversify. And it's also eligible for not-for-profit community development organizations who can apply for non-repayable contributions of the same amount, so $125,000 up to $10 million to grow regional ecosystems. And priorities for the spring intake include clean economic growth, innovation-led growth companies, technology, industrial transmission, zero-emission vehicles, housing manufacturing innovation, which is a new stream, the zero-emission vehicle is also a new stream for this one, and then inclusive growth for underrepresented groups in urban and small rural communities. The application program opened on May 1st and is open until June 24th of this year, and there are some information sessions scheduled for May 14th, 29th, 16th, and the 28th for those that are interested in learning more about that program. Number 7 is the Ontario Agriculture Hall of Fame. So just to let everyone know that nominations are open for that. There has been a total of 262 individuals inducted into the Agricultural Hall of Fame since its inception, including 3 from Renfrew County. So that would be Delbert O'Brien, inducted in 2021, Peter Barclay Dick, inducted in 2007, and Delmer Bennett, inducted in 1981. And nominations for this category, or for the Ag Hall of Fame, need to be received before October 31st of this year. Number 8, the Cultural Connector Award is open and accepting nominations until May 31st. And the County of Renfrew is a supporter of this award, and it recognizes an individual and a business that has gone over and above to support newcomers, immigrants and refugees, or international students to the region. This is a program that's led by the Local Immigration Partnership of Lanark Renfrew, and it's the third. This is part of the third Cultural Connect program series for this year. Number 9 is just a link to the Invest Renfrew County newsletter that was issued on May 1st. Number 10 is just a couple of things happening in Arnprior. So number 1, which isn't included in here, but I'll give a shout out to, is June 15th is Arnprior Fly-In Breakfast at the airport. And then on June 22nd is a Valley Diversity Emporium that's taking place at the Nick Smith Center. And that has a focus on celebrating crafts and creations of progressive makers and showcasing equity-deserving vendors from across the region. So if you know of any vendors in your community who you think would be a great fit, please encourage them to submit an application to participate. And I will end it at that for now before the resolutions.
Thank you, Ms. Marquardt. So we'll go back to information item number 1, the bioeconomy development opportunity and the zone marketing launch. Questions, comments? Item number 2 is the vendors market forum. Item number 3 is the Before You Arrive in Canada virtual forum. Item number 4 is the groundbreaking ceremony for Wolf System Canada. Warden, please.
Very quickly, thank you. It was a great event, and it was one of the largest ones we've had in sod turning, in that we had MPP Yakabuski, MP Gallant, we had Mayor McKenzie from McNabb Braeside, and County Councillor Dan Lynch from Town of Arnprior, and Chief Greg Zarazin from the Algonquins and Pikwakanagan First Nation, and assorted dealers from across Eastern Ontario for wolf, some of them from down east and Quebec and here in Ontario. So nice event, very respectful in terms of having some ceremonies from First Nations to initiate the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor from Town of Petawawa.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, do you mind if I go back to number 3 for a second?
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, I missed that one. Thanks. Just a question about the Before You Arrive in Canada program. Did you receive any materials, electronic type materials that could be sent to new immigrants who are coming to Canada in a couple of months that may be helpful to them?
Sorry, just to clarify, did we receive materials or do we have materials?
Do you have, or did you get new ones out of this symposium?
So yeah, we can share David's presentation that he provided to that, but we use the resources from the Local Immigration Partnership Network, which is more on so language and those types of training and supports that newcomers would require coming into the region. But we use our website to basically drive information for those. So we have space on the Invest Renfrew County website that we use for that.
Anything else on item 3 or 4? Councillor from Town of Arnprior.
Thank you, Chair. With your permission, under new business, which is part of the Arrive Can, on the 25th of March at 1400 hours, the Arnprior Library's speaking series will be Mark Wermke with a 19th century German immigration to Renfrew County. Sort of hand in hand to see how they got here. Thanks.
Thank you for that. So we'll go to item number 5, which is the Rural Change Makers Program. I'm just curious, has there been much interest?
We don't see the actual applications as they're coming in because that's handled by the ROI, the Rural Ontario Institute. And the program just opened on May 1st, so we're busily trying to support it and promote it, so I can't tell you right now whether we've had any applications, but we'll provide information to council once the applications close and the decisions have been made for who is being accepted into that program.
Thank you. It's a great program, so hopefully some of our youth jump on board. Item number 6 is the recently announced funding programs. Comments, questions? Seeing none, item number 7 is the Ontario Agriculture Hall of Fame. Item 8 is the Cultural Connector Award. Item number 9 is the Invest Renfrew County newsletter. And item number 10 is the Valley Diversity Emporium. And seeing no comments or questions, I'll go back to you, Ms. Margaret, for resolutions.
Thank you, Chair. So on page 70 of the report is the terms of reference for the Renfrew County Agricultural Economic Development Committee, and the recommendation that the Development and Property Committee recommends to County Council that the new terms of reference for the Renfrew County Agricultural Economic Development Committee be approved as presented.
Thank you. You've heard the recommendation. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by the warden, seconded by Councillor from Laurentian Valley. And background, please.
So as you recall, this terms of reference was brought forward to committee last month for approval, and there were a couple items noted for clarification, which have been addressed, so I'll just highlight those quickly. So concerns was about the total number of voting members listed in the terms of reference under Section 3. Section 5 indicating a favorable vote of 2/3 majority and must be achieved in order to proceed with a meeting. And there was a suggestion that the quorum be reduced to be changed to an uneven number. And then the third item was inclusion of a section that provides reference to the County of Renfrew procedural bylaw and procurement policy. So this has all been addressed, and under Section 5 of the terms of reference, we've added in Article number 6, which says in the event of a tied vote, the chair shall cast the tie-breaking vote. So that addresses even members, an even voting structure, as well as addresses the quorum. And then under item number 7, we've added Article 5, which says the committee shall adhere to the County of Renfrew's procedural bylaws and procurement policy when where appropriate. And these changes have been approved by the Agricultural Committee prior to being presented to DMP today.
Thank you for that. Comments or questions? Warden.
I'm glad to see it. I think they were great suggestions coming out of the committee, and congratulations on implementing them. Thanks.
Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that's carried. And back to you, Ms. Marquardt.
Thank you. Item number 12 is a recommendation relating to the international student cap. It's a recommendation that the Development and Property Committee recommends to County Council pass a resolution requesting that the federal government reconsider their decisions to cap international student permits to Canada in 2024 and reinstate the programs, reconsider the cap on the total hours permitted to work per week by returning to the pandemic level of 40 hours per week, and confer with colleges and universities to ensure all students receive quality education experiences.
Thank you. You've heard the recommendation. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor from Town of Petawawa, seconded by Councillor from McNabb Braeside. Are we doing all the whereases, or maybe just a little background?
Thank you. So I might have to lean on the warden or the CAO to fill in a little bit of background on this one, because I understand that this was a meeting that the County of Renfrew and the City of Pembroke had with Algonquin College to address the local impacts related to the federal government's decision to reduce the number of international students to Canada in 2024 by 35%. As well as their recent federal government's decision to reduce and cap the total number of hours that international students are permitted to work. Hours permitted to work previously was 24 per week, and during the pandemic that was raised to 40 hours a week. The government is now making a recommendation or making a decision to remove back down to the 24 hours per week, and that will pose significant challenges to our local business community who relies on the needs of our international students in our communities to help fill many of these positions. And I guess I will leave it at that if the warden wants to add anything more to that.
Thank you. This resulted from a conversation with Mayor Gervais. I recalled that Mr. Kelly and I were at the City of Pembroke when a presentation was made about Algonquin College and how much they depended upon international students. We also had a similar presentation here. And that occurred, and it was fresh in my memory, when the feds announced this. So I said to Mayor Gervais, we should maybe talk to Algonquin. So we spoke to Algonquin College. They were concerned about it, the impact on them, and they suggested there was a series of bad actors, maybe around the GTHA, who suggested they were colleges and people came over and they were basically storefront operations. So Algonquin College and other colleges, established colleges across Ontario, are not the issue, and probably across Canada there are some bad actors who bring people over, don't supervise them, don't provide an education, just take their money, in short. And so we got together, wrote up this motion after we spoke with Algonquin. Algonquin did make the point, as did our Melissa and our ECDev folks, that the international students are a great support for our local businesses. And we also had some examples provided to us, and I also had a conversation the next time I was at Algonquin with a couple of students as well. So this is the end result of all of that.
Thank you for that. Any comments or questions? Councillor from Laurentian Valley.
Thank you, Chair. I certainly support this recommendation. Just living close in the area here to the city, Pembroke and Algonquin College, you can certainly see the effect of our foreign students in the workplace, and hopefully many of them will stay in the area. So I certainly support it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I will make note for the public who might be watching that we didn't read all the whereases that are attached to this recommendation, but staff has certainly summarized them quite well. Seeing no further questions or comments, then I will call the vote. All in favor? And that's carried. And Ms. Margaret, I'll go back to you for the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association report.
Thank you, Chair. So first up on the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association report, which is on page 79, is the election of the new board of directors. So this took place on April 16th at the annual general meeting that took place in Renfrew. And so we've also had a board meeting since then to elect the chair and the vice chair position. So our chair is Stephanie Van Wyck from the Madawaska Canoe Centre. Vice chair is Megan James from the Somewhere Inn in Calabogie. We have Councillor Bennett as well as Councillor Weir, who are the appointees from County Council, Chris Hinsberger from the Bonachere Caves, Julia Klimak from the Upper Ottawa Valley Heritage Centre, Joel Kowalski from Wilderness Tours, Michelle Logan from the Comfort Inn Pembroke, Jill McClellan, End of the Leash Pet Boutique and Watch My Six, Elijah McEwen, who's the appointed representative from the City of Pembroke, Jolene Meloche from the Renfrew County ATV Club, Emily Stovall from the Arnprior District Museum, and Rachel Worth-Capel from Braiding Rivers. Number 2 is Roadmap and Visitor Information Center brochure distribution. So the OVTA supports over 10 visitor information centers across Renfrew County in partnership with our municipal partners. And so it's brochure distribution time. So that is taking place this month in preparation for the majority of those visitor centers to be opened in a couple weeks on the May long weekend. And so this is just a reminder for businesses as well as municipalities, if you have information regarding tourism assets in your community or recreation programming and things like that, to please have that information supplied to our office, and the OVTA staff will get that out to all of our visitor information centers. Item number 3, on May 8th, we hosted a destination bike webinar. So this was geared towards tourism operators, communities, and stakeholders who are interested in welcoming cyclists and to learn more about what it means to be a cycle-friendly business, as well as to receive cycle-friendly accreditation. And this is an opportunity that is available for free for any business within Renfrew County or the City of Pembroke as a result of the OVTA's destination partnership with Ontario by Bike. And so the bicycle certification program is open to tourism-related businesses within accommodations, attractions, food services, and bike-related categories. And we have been a member of the Ontario by Bike Network since 2017. And actually, this building is also designated as a cycle-friendly destination, which reminds me we need to get our bike racks back out front in front of the building to be able to meet that. And so this is an opportunity. Over the past couple of years, we've been working with we've now registered over 30 tourism operators across Renfrew County to become cycle certified and receive that designation, which is one step further in being an even more welcome, cyclist-friendly destination. Number 4 on the report is just an update on our Eastern Ontario Trail Loop Development Project, and we're doing that in partnership with Lanark County and Frontenac County, as well as Ontario's Highlands Tourism Organization. So this, if committee recalls, we are working to develop a cycling route using the KMP, the Ottawa Valley Recreational Trail, as well as the Cataraqui Trail. So as part of that assessment, we have a consultant in town who's completing the on-site assessment, which is Jane McCulloch of Terminus Consulting. And part of that assessment includes evaluating a set of criteria related to governance and management, pre-trip planning, entry and access points, trail experience, trail design, identity and brand, services available, and accessibility. And so this is a project that involves not only just the tourism side, but our trails folks as well. So we have support from the trails section through Taylor right now, as well as in trail departments through other communities as well. And so that will be moving forward, and the trail assessment takes place evaluated against the Trans-Canada Trail national standard. So that's the ultimate high-level standards of where we want to be, and so that will be what the criteria will be assessed against. And just as a reminder, this is a multi-year project, so it will be a couple of years before that route is finally available to be marketed and officially open to the public. Number 5 is the Ontario Tourism Industry Health Check Report ending February 29th. And again, this is provided to us by Destination Ontario and just highlights the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. And
Thank you, Ms. Markwitz. So we'll go back to information item number 1, the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association, OVTA newly elected board. Comments, questions? Seeing none. Item number 2 is the Roadmap and Visitor Information Center brochure distribution. Item number 3 is the Destination Bike webinar. Item number 4 is the Eastern Ontario Trail Loop Development. Questions? Finally, item number 5 is the Ontario Tourism Industry Health Check Report. And seeing no other questions, then I will go back to Ms. Markwitz for the Enterprise Renfrew County report.
Okay, on page 82 of the Development and Property Committee report. First up on the ERC report is the Starter Company Plus Spring session. So that began on May 2nd with a total of 29 applicants participating in that training session. So over the next couple months, they will be working with our small business advisor in completing their business plans, cash flow projections, and participating in a number of training sessions related to insurance, legal, accounting. And this all prepares them for the opportunity to pitch for a non-repayable grant in July. And just as a reminder, this program is open to new and existing entrepreneurs, but they have to be in operation for less than 5 years and aged 18 and over. And just as a result of the increased funding program that we did receive from the Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, we have 4 additional grants at $5,000 each that we're able to offer this year. So 2 of those will be offered during the spring intake session and 2 in the fall session. And that brings the total grant availability up to 19 over the course of the 2 sessions, valued at $80,000. So we're really grateful from MedCat for those additional funds to help support the growth and development of our local business community. Number 2 is the 2024 Summer Company Program. So applications for that close on May 17th, and this is the Youth Entrepreneur Program, so open to students aged 15 to 29 years who wish to run their own business throughout the summer. And this program provides participants with up to $3,000 in a non-repayable grant. So they receive $1,500 at the start of their business and $1,500 at the end of the season following successful completion of the program. And again, as a result of increased funding from MedCat, we have been able to increase our total seats to 7 for this year's program. And so that's really great. In the past, we've only had 5, so we're open for 2 additional seats this year. Item number 3 is just to let the committee know that Enterprise Renfrew County is providing adjudication services for the My Main Street Community Activator program. So this program is a high-impact placemaking, supports high-impact placemaking projects that revitalize neighborhoods and imagine public spaces, including main streets, downtown strips, in plazas. And this is a program that has been successfully applied to by a number of our communities in the past. My Main Street program reached out to regional organizations looking for support and to assistance to provide adjudicator services. So Heather Montrose, our small business advisor, is providing that on behalf of Enterprise Renfrew County, and also was able to identify a number of a few other local organizations like Renfrew County Community Futures, as well as the Upper Ottawa Valley Chamber of Commerce, who are providing these services also. And there is financial compensation available for that. And number 4 on the report is just a highlight of some past coaching successes. So ERC regularly links and stays in touch with past and current clients and links them to other relevant programs that are not run by Enterprise Renfrew County. And those are programs that are aimed at supporting business development and growth. And so just 2 recent examples is the Deep Roots Nature and Nursery School located in Deep River. They are a former Starter Company Plus program participant, and they were put in touch and made aware of the RAISE program, and they have successfully received $10,000 towards advertising their program and resources for children with exceptional needs, and expanding outdoor time for their program. And then the second was for Bumpy Road Studio, who was the recipient of last year's Francophone Entrepreneurship Awards that Enterprise Renfrew County gave out. And they have successfully received $5,000 through the eCampus program to develop a new product line. And so that's very exciting. Bumpy Road Studio is a pottery studio located in the city of Pembroke. And I will end it there before going to the bylaws.
Thank you, Ms. Markwood. Lots of good news. We'll start with information item number 1, the Starter Company Plus spring session. Councillor from Town of Arnprior.
Thank you, Chair. Does the 50,000 continue for next year? Like, is that now permanent or just a one-time thing? Thanks.
The 50,000 is a one-time top-up for this year, as well as for the 2024-25 fiscal.
Any other comments? Certainly is good news anytime we can get more money. Item number 2 is the Summer Company Program. Item 3 is My Main Street Program. Questions, comments? And item number 4 is the Coaching Success. Again, congratulations to Melissa and her staff for the success and the support that they provide to these brand new businesses. Any other comments? I see none, so we'll go to bylaws and back to you, Ms. Markwood.
Thank you. So this is for the transfer payment agreement to fund Enterprise Renfrew County for the 2024-25 fiscal. So I'll read the recommendation that the Development and Property Committee recommends that County Council adopt a bylaw to enter into a transfer payment agreement with the Province of Ontario for the financial and program support of Enterprise Renfrew County for the fiscal year April 1st, 2024 to March 31st, 2025.
Thank you, Ms. Markwood. You've heard the recommendation. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor from Town of Arnprior, second by Councillor from McNabb-Brayside. Background, please.
So this is the standard transfer payment agreement that we receive every couple of years for renewal of ERC's programming. Just want to note to committee that this does not include the additional $50,000 top-up that they provided. They will be providing a second amendment to the TPA, but we did not receive it in time for this, so we expect that we will be bringing that forward in June.
Thank you. Comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. And that brings us to the forestry report. And Ms. Rose, please.
Thank you, Chair. On page 87 of your committee package, some information items. The first information item is just some news that the Renfrew County Forest has officially achieved Sustainable Forestry Initiative certification. We've talked about this at some past meetings, and staff was directed through a resolution back in 2023 to proceed with a trial audit of the Renfrew County Forest under SFI certification. We all already have been another kind of certification, Forest Stewardship Council, or FSC, certified since 2009. Now we hold both certificates, and you'll remember that the reasoning behind going forward with this trial was so that we have an option should we decide to drop the FSC certification because of the changes that have occurred to the requirements for that. We continue to investigate whether or not we will maintain both certificates or just go with SFI. Just a note on that, though, is that there is no additional cost or effort for us to hold both because the audits happen at the same time. So the audit for us did go very well. There were even a few best practices that came out of the auditor's findings for our forest management activities. Number two, just a summary of some other activities. An interesting request was received from Chuck Commanda, who some of you may know as a master traditional birch bark canoe builder. Some really interesting videos of him online doing his work. He's also a member of the Algonquin community. So I've talked to him a little bit in the past when he's been looking for candidate white birch trees to harvest bark from. He, again, was looking. We had already identified some trees and provided him a map. So the other thing he was looking for were spruce roots. And we do have a lot of spruce plantations that are hard to manage because the material is not very marketable. It's not very good quality spruce. So hopefully that will be getting a different kind of use in a traditional cultural activity for the Algonquin community. Item B, I spoke at the Kawartha Lake Ontario Woodlot Association Chapter Expo in early April in Lindsay, talking about land stewardship and careers in forestry. Item C, we, both of us, Jake and I, attended and I facilitated a training seminar on hemlock woolly adelgid, which is an up-and-coming invasive pest that is only about 2 hours from the Renfrew County borders at this time. That was in April. And in addition, Jake, the forestry technician, has been doing some monitoring surveys in various locations of Renfrew County Forest this past month. Item D, I also attended the Ontario Professional Foresters Association annual conference in Sault Ste. Marie. The main reason I attended in person was because I am currently the vice president of the OPFA. So took that opportunity to attend the conference as well, which had some really relevant things compared to what we're doing, including a maple syrup operation and also a visit to an MDF mill in Sault Ste. Marie that is partially heated by biomass, so that was interesting to see. Item E, staff attended a community information session that was hosted by the Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society, also known as CPAWS, Ottawa Valley Chapter, and that was held in the United Townships of Head Clare and Mariah Town Hall on April 22nd. So CPAWS Ottawa Valley is campaigning to create a protected area in the northern townships, 450 square kilometers potentially of Crown land between Bissett Creek Provincial Park and Driftwood Provincial Park. The session was really well attended by local residents, as well as a number of members of the mining and forestry sectors who voiced strong opposition to any additional protection measures or parks in this area. The CPAWS staff described this as a session that was meant to gather feedback for their campaign to seek government funding for studies and lobby the government for increased protection, as they themselves do not have jurisdiction to create parks or protected areas as an organization. Item F, just a couple of school presentations that we completed in the last month to Bishop Smith Catholic High School and Cobden Public District High School. Item number 3 is a presentation that I believe I'm still going to deliver to you today. That was at the request of a councillor or two when I brought it up last month as something I delivered at the Forest Ontario conference this spring. So I'm going to go up to the podium just so I can feel a little bit more official up there. Okay, so I was invited to originally create this presentation as part of a session that was talking about different aspects of historical impact on the forest. So it's basically a brief overview of the history of Renfrew County Forest. Back on the side. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Tina. Okay, so I am going to be talking about the European settlement of the Renfrew County Forest Tracts, but before I get into that, I just wanted to acknowledge that before colonization, all of this land was ancestral and unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people who continue to live here and use the lands today. Archaeological information indicates that the Algonquin people were around for at least 8,000 years before Europeans arrived. And during that time, the Algonquins were using land for hunting, trapping, gathering, and other sustainable activities, which means that the evidence that might exist is not visible, and that's why I'm not going to be talking about the Algonquin values on a Renfrew County forest today. And just a reminder that there is a land claim process underway. So backing up, and some of you will have heard this from me in the past, but those of you who haven't heard me give this spiel before, the reason we have county forests is from the agreement forest era. So in the late 1700s, the British Crown was issuing patent grants to encourage people to come to what is now Canada and farm, grow food for other activities that were happening here, such as logging. So the deal was to obtain this free land, settlers had to fulfill some conditions, which included clearing land, putting up buildings, living on the land. But surprise, a lot of these lands were not suitable for farming. A picture here shows the result of land clearing and intensive agriculture that exposed soils to erosion, and it resulted in desertification in a lot of southern Ontario. So by 1908, the government decided, we can't ignore this any longer. There was someone named Edmund Zavitz, who's known as the father of reforestation, who pitched this grant program that would see the reforestation of these lands. A few acts were passed to facilitate that, and those authorized counties to acquire land for reforestation and provided funding. So the province helped manage what is now the Renfrew County Forest until 2000 on the county's behalf. The first agreement forest in Ontario was established in Simcoe County in 1920, and all of these purchases came with the promise to keep the forest as forest. Any sale or change in land use still has to be approved by the Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry, and MNRF would get half of the sales price because of the financial benefit that was given to purchase the lands originally. So as you know, the Renfrew County Forest has about 16,000 acres on 53 different tracts of land. The first one was acquired in 1951, but majority of the purchases were made in the 60s. All of these were assessed by someone, and we still have the paperwork on file, that deems that the area that was previously settled is unsuitable for agriculture, better suited for reforestation purposes. And then that land was then purchased with funding through that agreement forest program, which was 75% of the purchase price at the time. As a result, their settlement remains on nearly every tract that we have, but little or no documentation of the history beyond the names of the previous owners that the county purchased the land from. And that's where this comes in. So similar to the goals of the 50 million tree program that's still happening today that we've taken advantage of, red pine was and is still planted on these abandoned fields because it's tough, fast growing, and thrives in full sunlight. So the goal at the time when these forests were purchased, that were agricultural land, was to transition them back to a natural forest type. And we're seeing that happen today, and that's where most of our revenue is coming from. So about 17% of the Renfrew County forest land base is made up of these red pine plantations that were old fields. A really small amount was planted to spruce and white pine, which I just mentioned before. The spruce did not do well, and the white pine also did not do well. So red pine is definitely the most valued forest product that we have on our forest right now. But I will say that these old fields now look, to the untrained eye, it would be really hard to tell that they were ever farmed, except for the clues that I'm going to talk about. So of course, aerial photographs are a clue. We have on a shelf in my office boxes of these old aerial photographs that I do look at from time to time to try to help me find where these cultural heritage values are. So you probably can't see on the screen very well, but there are some little dots there where I have found foundations. This is the Shrine Hill tract. So that photo is from 1960-ish, and then you can see the most recent photo from 2021. Really hard to tell that there was fields there, except if you're good at aerial interpretation of different tree species. So all these properties do have a story to tell, but it's really fun to imagine what might have happened on these tracks as you're walking through doing forestry work, and it would be even more fun to know what the actual story is. So this tract is less than 600 meters from the first Polish settlement in Canada sign from 1859, and there are many eras of foundations and remains, and this is one spot that I've always really wanted to know more about. Luckily, I was introduced to Shirley Mass Conley, who has now become a hero of mine. She's done a bunch of research, and when I reached out to her about this tract in particular, she just ran with it. And she sent me these reports with photos of the original settlers and stories about their family. So that was really neat. She let me know that the original patent was to what is now pronounced as the Schalla family in 1878, who were from West Prussia, which is now Poland. Joseph and Josephine were the original holders of the lot. They both passed in 1883. They came with 4 children. There's a whole bunch of stories that came with this report that she sent me, and this is one of our tracks that I was able to find out about. Here's one of the many stories they shared. The original house on the property, everyone was still living in that house, but at the time of TB infestations or consumption, 3 of the children died in the house, and then they shut the doors, left everything in the house, and built another one. So that's one of the foundations that's there, and that's part of the history of this land, and we would never know that if it wasn't for Shirley getting this story from the original settlers. So it's really interesting to be able to find these things out, and those opportunities are kind of fading away. That property remained in the Schalla family until the 1930s, and then was sold to someone else. But as a rule, when all these properties were purchased, the buildings were either moved, sold, bulldozed for liability purposes. But you still can see, and this is another picture that Shirley sent me. So I've managed to figure out that one of the only wooden structures still standing on any of our county forests was the chicken coop. So I can match that up from the photo she sent me that's the one that is still standing. So pretty neat to be able to make that connection. One of the other clues that I find when I'm out working in the forest is the old garbage dump. Not to be confused with the new garbage dump that is problematic and also increasing concern. But I've found plenty of old cars, which makes my imagination go wild about how did this get here? Was there a mad car chase? This one's down a hill. It must have been an interesting story. Multiple generations of shoes with nails. It's really interesting when you find the medicine cabinet garbage area. Sometimes on those glass bottles there is enough information on there that you can Google the era to kind of find out when that would have been from. Some other really good clues of settlement are plants. Manitoba maple, which is in the first picture, always makes me look for foundations because that's not a native tree species, but settlers brought those seeds with them. Lilac bushes, these are more than 100 years old out in the forest, and they're still blooming every year. Apple trees, and I even found some hops in one of the forests. So all of these things are kind of a clue to start looking closer for what to protect for cultural heritage values. So lots of rocks and stumps. I said before that you wouldn't be able to tell that a plantation was a field, but the rocks definitely give it away. Sometimes a rock fence can indicate a boundary. Sometimes it was to keep livestock in. Sometimes it was just an organized way to pile those many rocks being pulled out of the field in an attempt to grow something. The one on the right here is really impressive. It seems like it was a road to somewhere lined by 4-foot by 5-foot rock walls on either side. So I don't know the story behind that one, but it is one that strikes me as like, this meant something at the time. I often think about how it would feel for the settlers who spent all that backbreaking labor to be picking rocks to now come back and see these 70-year-old red pine growing where they were trying to grow food. Another clue is the landscape. So this is a view from my annual lunch spot in Centennial Lake when I go to pull garlic mustard from this location. And for the last 4 years, I wondered, how did that red pine get on that island? And then I was just happened to be going through one of our paper files, and I noticed that the original map drawn of this tract just had a little creek through it. And I'm not from around here, so I didn't realize that this is a man-made lake. So in fact, those red pine were planted by the same people that planted the red pine on the Renfrew County Forest, because all of that used to be part of the Renfrew County Forest before it was flooded in 1967, including a nearby graphite mining village, the Black Donald Mine. So I learned a lot that day. But you know, as a come from away, I never knew that part of the valley history. The other really interesting way that we're finding these things out is the word of mouth and historic documents. And as I mentioned, this is getting less and less as people pass on that would be holding these stories. But on a few occasions, I have encountered people in the forest while I'm working who still have this knowledge. Some things I've learned are, I was born in the house that used to be here, older gentleman told me. Or my family lived here and there was a grist mill over there, about the Maves tract. And the most recent one was, did you know there was a murder at this property? So I, of course, went to Google and found a news article from 1935 about the Petsnick Lake tract, that there was, in fact, a very, it reads like a crime podcast, actually. I would recommend, like, if you have an interest in these things, that's an interesting story. The quotable quote, though, is that the feet have never been found. So hopefully that's not something that we ever come across on one of our county forests. But, you know, these are all parts of the history of our land base. So just some takeaways. I like to call this forest scene investigation, and it is one of the favorite parts of my job, that every forest has a story to tell, not just in the ecological sense as a forester, but in the cultural sense, and from what I can glean from seeing out in the forest. It is unfortunate that we are losing those local oral history opportunities, and I would love to have the opportunity to work with people like Shirley Moore to collect them while we still can. Of course, trees grow back and faster if we help. So if that planting program hadn't existed when the tracts were purchased, like, we wouldn't have the asset that we have now in the red pine forests, and that, you know, continues today. We have a few younger plantations that have been planted since 2011 under a similar funding program. And history continues to be made. Unfortunately, the history that's being made now is by, like, dumping large trailers of garbage and other not great uses of the forest. But I hope that that's not what the forester 100 years from now finds when they're doing their work in the forest. And lastly, of course, curiosity and a keen eye do make being a forester fun. So that concludes my presentation for you today. Thank you.
Very interesting and excellent presentation, Lacey. So we'll go back to information item number 1, which is the Renfrew County Forest Officially Sustainable Forestry Initiative Certified. Questions, comments? And item number 2, and I'll go through the other activities that Lacey's been involved in. The first one, A, is the request from Chuck Commanda, the canoe builder. Item B is the keynote speaker at Kawartha Lakes Ontario Woodlot Association. Item C is the facilitated and attended training seminar on the hemlock woolly adelgid. Item D is the county forester attending the Ontario Professional Foresters Association Annual Conference in Sault Ste. Marie. Item E is the community information session hosted by Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society, along with the Ottawa Valley chapter at the United Townships of Head, Clare, and Mariah. And finally, item F is the staff-delivered presentation about forestry and related careers to Renfrew County students at Bishop Smith and Cobden Public School. Finally, item number 3 is the history of the Renfrew County Forest. The history does certainly tell some interesting stories. So I'll go back to you, Ms. Rose, for bylaw.
Thank you, Chair. The bylaw is to update the bylaw to prohibit certain activities on County of Renfrew-owned forest. I'll read the recommendation. That the Development and Property Committee recommends that County Council adopt a bylaw to prohibit certain activities on County of Renfrew-owned forest, and that bylaw 9209 be repealed.
Thank you, Ms. Rose. You've heard the recommendation. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor from Laurentian Valley, seconded by Councillor from Greater Madawaska. Background, please.
So the reason that we're updating this bylaw at this time is because of the changes that are happening to the County of Renfrew recreational trails bylaw. Also, we took the opportunity to review and improve the 2009 forest bylaw, reflecting the higher costs associated with dealing with issues on the Renfrew County forest. And also an exercise was undertaken to review similar bylaws in other counties and add prohibited activities that have become problematic in our land base. The draft was provided last month for feedback to committee, and no comments were received. And I will also just note that once this is approved by committee and county council, it will go to the Minister of Justice for review and comment because of the change to the fine levels. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rose. Comments or questions? I see none. So all in favor? And that's carried. And then we'll move to Mr. Raditz and the Real Estate Division report, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the committee. The real estate report is found on page 106. Information item number 1 is just the, in attached appendix is the update on status of the current projects for 2024. Item number 2 is an update on the new build on Lee Street. And it's good to say that we're nearing the finish line. We're about at 95% completion. And if you look up on the screen, Tina has a couple of photos. So within the next 2 weeks, near the end of the month, we should be officially have the project completed. And the good news story is that a month after that, probably the end of June, early July, that it'll be ready for tenants to occupy the building. Item number 3 is a staffing update, and we'd like to welcome Ted Marcotte. Of course, he's not here today, but officially welcome. Ted has joined our team as the building infrastructure coordinator, and Ted comes to us with a wealth of experience and knowledge from another county in social housing and projects and maintenance. So we look forward to working with Ted in the future, and current projects, new projects, and continuing with ongoing maintenance in our both portfolios. And Chair, I'll just stop there before the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Raditz. Going back to information item number 1, the real estate 2024 capital and capital under threshold project update. Questions? Seeing none, item number 2 is the 1030 Lee Street new build progress report. Councillor from Arnprior.
Thank you, Chair. To Kevin, I see 95%, 5% more to go. Could there be more expenses forthcoming?
Thank you for that question, through you, Chair. At this point, we're pretty confident there is maybe one more small change order. And but again, it's relatively minimal. So for next month's committee report, we'll have an update of the final costs for the project.
Thank you. Any other comments? Item number 3 is the staffing update. Another good news story. You found somebody to fill the role. Seeing no other comments, then we'll move to Mr. Raditz for resolution.
So the resolution, a request for additional funds, the Eganville Paramedic Base Financial Update. I'll read the resolution. That the Development and Property Committee recommends that County Council approve an additional amount of $140,000 to complete the renovations at the Eganville Paramedic Base in order to execute the rear structure renovations, and that the additional amount be taken from the building capital reserves.
Thank you for the recommendation. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by the warden, seconded by Councillor from Town of Arnprior. And background, please.
So the background, if you recall last year when we took possession of the building and during this transaction, we did initially indicate a budget of about $400,000 to conduct the renovations and retrofit. And as you can see, to date, we're at $396,567. We're in the third stage, and we're probably at about, I would say, 95%, or probably about 90% in this third stage. And as you can see, we've listed the cost to date in the different areas. So we are requesting an additional $140,000 to complete the final stage of this final work in this third stage of the project, which is essentially the installation of a back door, which will allow or facilitate a drive-through concept. And of course, there's some other minor work involved as well with electrical and some additional minor work to be completed. So of course, we're requesting that this would come from the building capital reserves. The final phase of the project, when we started this project, we kind of established it to kind of 4 stages, 4 phases. And of course, the 4th phase would be addressing that in 2025 or 2026, which would consist of basically paving of the yard and some landscaping and maybe the installation of a fence. So, Chair, I'll just stop there.
Thank you, Mr. Raditz. Comments, questions? Warden?
Thank you. The drive-through, is that, I'm trying to remember the front of the building, is that all 3 doors will be mirrored at the back, or is it only 1 door as a drive-through?
Through you, Chair, thank you, Warden, for that question. It'll be just 1 door.
Good. And supplementary to Mr. Burke, likely, or Mr. Davis, the costs, will this be factored into the lease, and it'll be kind of a cost recovery over a period of years with the rest of the costs for the renovation?
Through you, Chair. So I'll for sure defer to Mr. Burke, but I can answer the question saying yes, it'll be part of the repayment program. Thank you.
Mr. Burke, any further comment? Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. And back to you, Mr. Raditz, for the flat roof.
This is a bylaw for a contract award RE-2024-06-RP County Administration Building flat roof replacement. I'll read the recommendation that the Development and Property Committee recommends that the County Council approve contract RE-2024-06-RP as submitted by IRFCon Limited, Pembroke, Ontario, for the replacement of 4 flat roofs at the County Administration Building in the amount of $159,861 plus applicable taxes. and that County Council adopt the bylaw to execute the contract.
Thank you, Mr. Raditz. You've heard the recommendation. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor from Town of Petawawa, seconded by Councillor from McNabb-Braeside. And background, please.
So the background on this is, of course, we initiated a tender back in April, and we received 4 quotes. And as you can see, the one quote, which was the lowest one, they withdrew their bid, and which the next lowest quote was from IRFCon Limited in the amount of $159,861. So initially we had, when we identified this project, the budget was approved at $123,765.40. So you can see there's a difference of $36,000, $36,095.60 difference. So we reviewed that, and we're contemplating on postponing one of the projects that was scheduled for 80 McConnell, valued at $50,000, and redirect that portion to this project in order to ensure that we can complete the flat roofs.
Thank you, Mr. Raditz. Comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. Any other questions on the projects? Seeing none, we'll go to the Planning Services Division report, and Ms. Bennett, please.
It'll be me today, Chair. Thank you. Lindsay's already left us. So number 1, I am happy to introduce to you at the back of the room, we have Luan Zoe. Apologize. She's a co-op student, our very first co-op student for the planning department. So we're excited to have her here. And she is coming from the University of Waterloo. She's in her 2nd year. She is in the Faculty of Environmental Sciences and under the School of Urban Regional Planning. I think that's off the top of my head. Same program I graduated from. So welcome, Luan, and we're very happy to be here. And we'll have her. She'll be in Renfrew County for the next 4 months. And so hopefully we'll have a whole host of exciting projects for her to work on. And maybe at the end, I haven't thought it all the way through yet, but hopefully maybe at the end we can maybe arrange for a little demonstration of some of the projects that you've been working on for us over the next 4 months. But yeah, please join me in welcoming Luan to our team. Item number 2, here we go again. On April 10th, we have a new omnibus introduction, Bill 185 from the province, that they are introducing more changes to the Planning Act. I think this is approximately the 10th change since 2021. There's a quick little overview of some of the other previous bills that we've been dealing with, whether there was Bill 109, Bill 123, Bill 185. If you look at some of the names of these acts, you'll quickly get the theme of what's going on. The province is very interested in getting more homes built quicker and at an affordable rate. So in Ontario, we do have a top-down approach to planning. There's that chart that we've included in the agenda or in the package showing that at the top we have the Planning Act. So the province sets the Planning Act, gives municipalities the jurisdiction and the authority to plan. Underneath that is the provincial policy statement, where municipalities, any decisions that a planning authority makes has to be consistent with that provincial policy statement. And then under that, you have your municipal documents, whether it's the official plan and zoning bylaw. So as changes are made from the top by the province to the Planning Act or through that provincial policy statement, or it's soon to be called the provincial planning statement, that trickles down and necessitates change at the local level. So I am cognizant of the time, so I'm not going to go through all of it. But I just did want to bring a couple of the changes to your attention. So a lot of these changes that we're seeing are actually, we'll call them reversals to previous bills made under Bill 109 or Bill 23. And we actually welcome quite a few of these changes. So we think this is largely a good bill for municipalities. The first one on the top of page 112 that I wanted to bring to your attention is the reversal of the previous fee refunds. So under Bill 109, if the municipality did not make a decision in a timely manner, the applicant of that application would be receiving a fee refund by the municipality if there was a delay. So that has been reversed. Obviously, that's a welcome reversal that municipalities will no longer have to give any fee refunds. Pre-application consultation, item B. This is another, I'll say, a interesting change. We put a lot of work and effort into it. Back when Bill 109 was introduced, we had a big working group comprised of the County of Renfrew staff, and all other local municipal staff were invited to discuss this and how it would change our Planning Act procedures. So the province has changed the legislation so that pre-consultation or the pre-application consultations, municipalities can no longer make that a mandatory process. So it's going back to how it was previously, where municipality or applicants had the ability to, if they wanted to go through that pre-application process, they could ask for that, but it was not mandatory. So again, we see this is an okay change. One of the larger ones that I did want to bring to your attention is under F, is the prohibition on third-party appeals. So this is probably this largest change to the whole process. So we've seen a history of sort of the public consultation process being taken out of the Planning Act process, whether it's the plan of subdivisions by removing the requirements for even holding a public meeting, or that the public is not able to appeal. So the province has sort of taken the last two opportunities for the public to appeal, which was for official plan amendments and zoning bylaw amendments, out of the equation. So now when a council makes a decision on an official plan amendment, whether it's affirmative or a refusal, members of the public who don't like that decision of council can no longer appeal. The only people who could appeal were the person who made the application, or essentially public bodies or some of the prescribed utilities. So that will significantly reduce, hopefully, hearings at the Ontario Land Tribunal. And there's several other ones in there, some interesting ones with regards to use it or lose it provisions under I, where if where a applicant has, or for example, a plan of subdivision has been given approval or through site plan, that if they don't use it or act upon those approvals, that they will lose those approvals. So it's again an incentive for the developers to act on their approvals to get shovels in the ground and housing built. And there's a whole new PPS that's being proposed, and so those are summarized in under O. There's many revisions there. I will say nothing very too significant. I don't anticipate a large impact to Renfrew County or how that we currently do planning or how it affects our policies. Largely, these changes are focused in on the fast-growing or urban areas of GTA or like the Ottawas. So I don't see very many significant impacts for Renfrew County. So in the sake of time, the whole report is there for your consideration, but I'll just leave it to those points for now. Item number 3, on page 117, is an update. So Greater Madawaska, we've been in touch with their staff. The Township of Greater Madawaska passed a resolution advising to engage with county staff, with the township staff, and the township planning consultant to look at the policies within the County of Renfrew official plan, which may not effectively reflect some of the goals and objectives of the township. And we did meet with the township planning consultant and advise them what that process would be, and to make sure that the county official plan policies are meeting and reflecting the goals of Greater Madawaska. Item number 4 is an update to the Baskin Drive subdivision. So this subdivision has received final approval, and this will facilitate the construction and the additional 24 row house units and 64 apartment units. So that's a good news story that that's final approval, and we should see, again, shovels in the ground for those units to actually start getting created. I believe the road and this services have already been installed, and now we'll see the actual units getting constructed, which is great. Item number 5 is another good news story that for the town of Renfrew, that the Pinnacle View subdivision has been draft approved, and this will create an additional 62 single detached units, 70 semi-detached units, and 72 row house units for another 204 units. And the developer will have 3 years to go through those conditions of draft approval to finalize that subdivision. Item number 6 is an update with regards to what our GIS division has been up to. They've been very busy. The team has been collaborating with fire departments to create a community safety and risk dashboard, looking at leveraging some of our online tools and applications, and we're trying to help to create maps and applications to support this new initiative. And staff recently participated in a fire chiefs meeting to showcase some of these tools and how we can best use them to promote and develop those new online tools. We held a training session here at the County of Renfrew on April the 25th. Our GIS team put a great morning together. We invited local staff from the local municipalities, and about 41 people did attend to receive some training and updates on the software and identifying how those tools can be used at the local level to support local municipalities. And the last one is we've initiated collaboration with our Esri Advantage program team. And going back to previous directions by the committee, so we are working with them to move forward on some of our goals for the division. So we're looking at exploring options to migrate some of our GeoCortex applications. That's the current web-based GIS software that we're using. So looking at migrating that into a new environment. We're looking at our whole GIS environment so that it is flexible and capable of scaling to meet our business needs for the future. Increasing our GIS awareness, and while recognizing the size of our resource team. And we are also looking at providing how we store and organize our data so that it can be accessed, reused, and shared throughout the organization or with the public. And so this is we're sort of moving forward with all those goals at the same time. And I believe that's the end of the committee report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Howarth. We'll go back to information item number 1, the co-op student that's joined us. And once again, welcome to Lorenzo. Item number 2 is the Bill 185 Cutting Red Tape to Build More Homes Act. Questions or comments? Warden.
We often complain, and so I'm wondering if it's possible, if the committee would agree to the planning department getting a letter ready for my signature, just sending something back to the Premier and Minister Calandra that there was some good things, because we do tend to be negative sometimes, so it'd be nice to be positive.
Okay, so we have a motion to prepare a letter. Thanks. Seconded by Councillor from Town of Arnprior. Comments? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Any other comments on item number 2? Item number 3 is the Greater Madawaska Official Plan Amendment. Councillor from Greater Madawaska.
Through you, Chair, I just want to thank staff for working with our teams on that, so thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, item number 4 is the Baskin Drive subdivision in the Town of Arnprior. Comments, questions? Seeing none, item 5 is the Pinnacle View subdivision for the Town of Renfrew. Warden, please.
Again, expressing our appreciation, recognizing that this was outside of the original settlement or growth area from X number of years ago. And so some of the recent legislation has allowed us to take a look at this and to approve it. And there's some infrastructure questions which we will have to resolve in-house within the town.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? Item number 6 is a GIS update. Seeing no comments or questions, then we will move to the report as a whole. And could I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the report? Moved by Councillor from Laurentian Valley, second by Councillor from McNabb Braeside. Comments? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. Item number 9 are written reports from the representatives appointed to external boards. So we have the Ottawa Valley Forest Local Citizen Committee, which is attached, as well as the Algonquin Park Local Citizen Committee and the CNL Environmental Stewardship Committee. Any comments on any of those? Councillor Lynch, please, or Councillor from Town of Renfrew.
Thank you, Chair. Just to sum up, in April, CNL reported that as a result of their routine sampling of effluent treated discharge from their conventional sanitary sewage treatment facility in February to the Ottawa River, it was found to be non-compliant. In May, they've still been working on it. It indicates they're beginning of a positive progress, but it's still going to be taking another couple of months to get it done. It should be noted that the discharge from the sewage treatment facility does not pose a threat to environment or to the public. CNL has also confirmed that this non-compliant is not related to radiological contaminants. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor from Town of Petawawa.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, I hate to disappoint everybody. I know this is a much anticipated report, but due to time constraints, I've been asked to postpone this until next month. At least you'll have something to look forward to for next month.
Actually, it's pretty impressive.
It certainly is impressive and a lot of detail, so we'll certainly look forward to that. Is there any new business? Yes, Councillor from Laurentian Valley.
Very short on this one. A couple times now we have exceeded our timeline and impaired the second committee meeting from going on in the afternoon. I'm just wondering if we should change the time to 9 a.m. to start instead of the 9:30.
I'll look to Director Davis or CAO Kelly.
I think what we could do, if I could, Chair, and through you, and speaking on behalf of our CAO, we've had the last 2 committee reports have been lengthy in nature due to some public meetings and delegations. And what we'll do to try to make sure we stop on time is to make sure our delegations are kept at a minimum and our reports are concise.
Thank you for that. So the date of our next meeting will be Tuesday, June the 11th, 2024, and I'll need a mover and a seconder to adjourn. Moved by Councillor from Town of Petawawa, seconded by Councillor from Greater Madawaska. All in favor? That's carried. We are adjourned, and we made it at 1 o'clock.